council to approve a development permit. Prior to final reading, zoning bylaw and modification of the development permit would be withheld pending registration of a covenant, a couple of covenants with specific parameters around them. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Council, questions of staff. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through to the planner. So this building is a commercial building, and there's a lot of signs all over this building. I'm wondering, is this what would be allowed under our sign bylaw for a commercial building in a residential area of this? Or would we have some more say on the type of signage?
The signage itself, I believe, is conceptual. It would need to adhere to the sign bylaw that's currently adopted by council. So I believe it's just been provided for conceptual purposes.
So you haven't looked at it with relationship to whether it's legal?
No, we have not.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Platt.
Thank you, Chair. Question through you to Director of Planning. I'm just wondering, under item 3 of the recommendation regarding a restriction regarding on-site storage limited to only files, documents, and office equipment. When you say new restriction, is that because we have never applied a covenant saying you could only use a building for a certain type of storage, or is it just new as in this is an addition that the applicant wasn't aware of?
It's new in the sense of this site. It's not currently captured within a restrictive covenant registered on this site, so it's a new aspect. That's all that's meant by that.
Thank you.
Would the applicant please come forward?
Good evening, I'm Keith Baker from KP Design. I'm choosing not to make a presentation. My presumption is that everyone has had a chance to review the drawings and have a look at what we're proposing. But I would like to make just a couple of points, if I may, regarding the application. One of the variances is to allow the extra square footage for the basement. Currently, my client, who's the owner of the building, of course, has got storage at various remote storage facilities for files. He operates a business that has a lot of rental properties scattered throughout actually the world. But his storage facilities are scattered, so when anything needs to be accessed, it's sending somebody down the road to go fetch it and dig it out, etc. So the idea with this is to consolidate his storage purposes, and he's quite happy and amenable to restrict that storage use to being concerned with files and office-associated types of storage. I want to assure Council that there is in no way any possibility of using this extra storage space, which occurs in the basement actually, for any construction storage or any construction materials or tools, etc. It is not a construction yard. This is strictly for office administration file storage. In fact, there is no garage door. There is no practical way to bring any kind of materials or tools or any of that sort of thing into that space. There's one set of stairs, which is the fire escape, and that's essentially the only way to get there. So it makes it very impractical for that purpose. So we just want to be clear that everyone understands that that is certainly not the intention for the use of this space. One of the other variances is a simple one. The parking, we were within, I believe, 0.4 of a parking space, and we're asking for a minor relaxation. I don't think that is going to step on anyone's toes. In fact, we're encouraging the use of cycling. In fact, there is a shower and staff facility in the basement being proposed in the floor plan to allow for anyone that would like to ride the bicycle to work and perhaps gets a little sweaty on a hot summer day and would like to freshen up before work. So we're encouraging that. We've got bicycle storage actually on site as well that's contained and lockable. So we're very cognizant of wanting to encourage that kind of transportation and activity as far as staff goes. This is also not particularly a type of business that has a lot of activity in terms of clients showing up. It's not that kind of construction company. Most of the construction that he actually does is generally on foreign soil, very little of it, some in Canada for sure, but a lot of it is in Europe as well. So it's not a high traffic type of building in terms of clients coming. Certainly somebody with a hairdressing shop would have an awful lot more traffic than this would ever likely see. There's one other point that is mentioned in the communications, and it's certainly on the agenda, is mentioned that there is proposed to be a geothermal heat pump. That is a bit of an error because the proposal is actually an air source heat pump. So I just wanted to make that clarification. We are going for an equivalent of a built green gold standard on this building. So my client is definitely dedicated to making a very efficient, purposeful building for his use. I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Councillor Dermott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Pleased to see the idea of including some passive solar design, and built green gold is also desirable. Had you considered making sure when you built the building, putting in whatever conduit are necessary to accommodate future solar paneling, if it became appropriate? That's a common thing to do, and I would see if you would be willing to do that at this point.
Yes, we had talked about that. We think that's a smart and very affordable thing to do. So yes, we would definitely.
Okay, so that's a yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Second one is this is a rezoning, or at least an alteration of an existing zone, so it would require a public hearing. When we get, and this is not a huge building, but often there is an attempt at the zoning stage is when council can ask for amenity for the neighborhood or anything of that nature. Have there been any discussions held with the community association as to whether or not there would be an amenity contribution or what it might be?
There has been discussion about it, and it's very unclear what that might look like. There's not a lot of on-site potential for that. There was some discussion about potentially offering up a bench for a bus stop, but it turned out the bus stop is not a continuous use type of bus stop. It seems to be one that's intermittently used. So it didn't seem to be, that wasn't a great idea. My client is open to those discussions. There has not been anything decisive at this point. So I'm just saying he's open.
So your client might be open to something like a contribution to the Swan Lake Christmas Hill Nature Sanctuary?
I would say potentially yes.
Okay, and I'll leave that out there and wait to see if something happens before a public hearing, if it goes. Thank you.
Councillor Plant.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to echo the comments about pre-ducting for the solar, passive solar, and I'm very happy to hear that you would consider doing that. I recognize, I believe in the report there's a comment that there wouldn't be an immediacy because of the curved roof, but I think for the limited amount of money it costs to pre-duct, it's worth doing for that eventuality when there are probably curved surfaces available for solar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Any members of the public wish to address this item?
Mr. Chairman, I get 10 minutes for the association.
Try it.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, councillors and staff members. My name is Haji Charanya. I reside at 757 Genevieve Road, and this evening I'm speaking for North Quadra Community Association. The process for this proposal started about a year ago. We had Mr. Keith Baker, the landscape designer, and the owner, Mr. Danny Jadaresco, came to our executive meeting on June 26th and presented the proposal to us. Following the presentation, we wrote to Mr. Baker on July 7th with a copy to the planning department. 2 days ago, I shared the copy of the letter with the mayor and the councillors as well. Let's quickly go to page 2 of the planner's report of June 9th. Under Community Association referral, it states referral sent on August 22nd, no response. That is not quite accurate. We sent a response on the same day at 4:30 p.m., so the Friday, by attaching the copy of the letter dated July 7th, because nothing had changed between July 7th and the August 22nd. Also, we note that the planner's report completed on June the 9th. The association received it on July the 7th, almost a month later. Anyway, at present we have taken a no objection position, but frankly, we are not excited with this development proposal. Here are a few comments to illustrate why we are not quite thrilled to see this development there, at that location. When the site was rezoned as a part of comprehensive development in 1995, almost 20 years ago, our vision, or the community vision, was to see a small commercial building accommodating a law office, a dental or medical offices, real estate office, or something similar. You may note that this site is the southwest entrance of North Quadra local area, right at Douglas and Mackenzie. Also, please note that the site of the building was tailored to a smaller commercial building of 372 meters squared. 2 years ago, we received a proposal. This might be of some interest to council. 2 years ago, we received a proposal on Quadra Street, Old Palace gas station site, with backfit, a chiropractor operation currently located at Borden and Mackenzie. When that proposal collapsed, we suggested this site to Dr. Jeff Bartlett. Maybe they should look at this site for their chiropractic operation. However, they felt that this site was a bit too far from their current location and somewhat isolated from the current commercial node of Quadra and Mackenzie. Given that no other proposal has come forward for the past 15-odd years, after reviewing this proposal, we took the stance of no objection because we were assured that the commercial building will be used as a property management office. The owner applicant, Mr. Danny Jadresko, has many properties, including many up islands, under his ownership and management. This building will not be used as a construction-related work or a construction site office. At the meeting, we were invited by the owner, Mr. Jadresko, to view their current operation on Blenkinsop. I have visited the current site on Blenkinsop and found that there is a landscaping operation as well. This heightens our concern about the operation of this building in future, and also in case the construction, property management, and landscaping businesses are consolidated in one location. To alleviate our concerns on a long-term basis in case the buildings at 779 was rented out or sold in future, the applicant assured us that they would enter into a covenant with Saanich. And this is why you're talking about the covenant. Further, we were assured that the basement area will be used strictly as the file storage and no construction material or equipment will be stored in the building or on the site. And I believe the applicant has confirmed that this evening. Therefore, you can appreciate a strong covenant is a key to this development proposal. In that regard, the covenant recommended by the planner is quite weak in our opinion. So please refer to page 15 of the report, recommendation 3, bullet number 2. We would like to add, this is again addition to the covenant which is already stated, we would like to add, or we urge you to add, No construction and related equipment and/or material will be stored in the building or on site, and no construction vehicles will be parked on the site. And I'm thinking more about the dump trucks and the concrete mixture and things like that. So
Are we wrapping up shortly?
I'll try, sir. One other major concern,
Please.
one other major concern we asked, and that is the additional area by 57% from 372 to 585. And I think we would like some consideration for the public amenity as a result of that. Considering the design, personally, I'm not impressed with the standing seam galvanized metal roof. However, given that the design panel has not taken any issue with it, I have to leave that with you. Some executive members still think that this building is ideal for solar panels. So I don't know why round roof would more look like a barn than anything else. In conclusion, we are going to leave the design and energy issues with you, but would urge you to make a covenant specific and tight and seek appropriate additional amenity, public amenity. To the owner, we can only say that we will not be happy if the terms of the covenants are violated. There will be a constant and repeated complaints to signage to enforce the covenants, as long as I'm there. Thank you. Did I get 10 minutes or did I do 12 minutes?
You can come up on the next item for another 5. Thank you
No,
very much.
I'm done. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to address council on this item, please come forward. Anyone else? Thank you. Councilor German.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will move a public hearing. And I'll speak to you briefly if I could. I'm well aware of this site for a long time. When I was involved in the North Quadrant Community Association, this particular development proposals in here were on stream. And this was envisioned, as Mr. Churania has said, as a small commercial site, or even hopefully something like a coffee shop in there to service the local neighborhood. However, it's been a long time and nothing like that has come forward. So the market clearly does not seem to think it's viable in that respect. This is a small property and a relatively small building. It's, I think, an appropriate use. I would agree with the Community Association that they probably want guarantees as tight as possible in the covenant, and hopefully we will see such language in the public hearing. And from what the applicant has indicated, the applicant would be, I think, I hope, would be willing to countenance such revisions to make sure that the covenant was tight as possible. I would would encourage rather the Community Association and the applicant to get together and see if there is some sort of community contribution. I put one forward for their consideration. It may or may not be suitable, but it's a possibility. Other than that, I think this is, in my view, a relatively attractive looking design, has some good environmental features, and I hope will fit well into the neighborhood. Thank you.
Councilor Murdoch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would have liked to have heard from the applicant if they were agreeable to the suggestion from the community, well, Mr. Schranger on behalf of the Community Association with respect to the additional covenant items. That's obviously a discussion that can take place in advance of the public hearing, but I would like confirmation going into the public hearing or at the public hearing whether or not they'd be agreeable to that, a covenant of that nature. Similarly, as Councilor Dermott mentioned, I'd like to hear I'd like to see a further conversation between the Community Association and the applicant with respect to an amenity contribution. I wouldn't go so far as to make a suggestion about what that would mean, although I think Councillor Derman's suggestion is certainly worth pursuing. I think, you know, for the nature of the business, I think this is a good location. I think primarily the issues around transportation will be related to employees, and in that regard, it's actually in a pretty good location. If this was going to be a grocery store, it would be an entirely different question, and I would not be supportive of putting that in this location. I agree that the green features, the air source heat pump, and the aspirational target of the Bill Green Gold standard for this is certainly admirable. I quite like the design, actually. I think it's complementary to it has a West Coast feel to it, but I think it's got an interesting attribute with that rooftop, and that's going to be interesting from that location where you would likely see it from above. I'll be supportive of this going to public hearing with those additional items clarified for Council's consideration.
Councillor Hayes.
I was very pleased to see this type of application come forward. In our municipality, I think it's always good when businesses step up, build a beautiful building and put a head office here. And this particular business is a construction business. Ooh, who knows, maybe they'll start doing construction as well as around the world, but in Saanich. I thought the use of the building, the design of this building for this particular location was very good. And I do recall being escorted around the area by Haji when we did a North Quadra familiarization. There's a lot about this building that I like. On the solar panels, I do recall when the Habitat for Humanity building down just south of the hall here put solar on the roof. There was a little bit of dismay in the community because it did spoil, it affected the visual appeal of those buildings. So I would think that if solar does go ahead on here, I particularly like this roof line. It's got a beautiful look and feel to it, and I could see it that would be impacted perhaps negatively by solar panels. Perhaps, as Councillor Plant said, they'll be curved in the future. But I was pleased to see the advisory panel were fond of this building. So I'm very pleased with this application. On the covenant, I've mentioned this. I imagine that there'll be some flexible so that during the day when I drive up there with my concrete mixer, which I'm prone to do, to park there for coffee, that wouldn't be a problem. It's more to do with the overnight and over weekend parking, permanent parking, not daytime parking. Because in construction, they may have a construction driver or two come by, I'm just guessing here, or somebody come by. So we have to be careful how tight that covenant is, and I look forward to seeing what the proponent brings forward. Thank you very much.
Councillor Plant.
Thank you, Chair. I support this going to public hearing. The only concern I have about this going forward is the lack of accessibility to the second floor for people with disabilities. I did recognize that putting in an elevator for a two-story building would be problematic. However, I would hope that the applicant would consider, I'm not sure what the professional term is, but the ones you see, a lift that goes adjacent to the staircase up and around. And that would be a way to ensure that future uses of the building, and just so that all of our residents, I feel that when we build buildings in our city, in our region, we have to make them accessible to all residents who would go there, even if they're not necessarily going to be employees that would be able to conduct that work in a wheelchair. The building should have accessibility for those people. So I would ask you just to consider that, and maybe we can have an offline conversation. Thank you.
Councillor Ronoff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to support this going on to public hearing. I just want to reiterate about signage. I see that the advisory design panel says using non-lit channel signage would be appropriate. I just, you know, this is a residential area, and I would want this signage to be bright in the evening for people. So if it's just a business operating in the nighttime, perhaps they can look at maybe less signage and the lighting around the signage. Thanks.
And just a comment, I do support it going to public hearing, and I believe it's a good development, it's in a good area. The reference was made to the solar panels on the Habitat homes. They were problematic and they were changed. That's why we saw a change there. Council. Oh, I'm sorry. Councillor Sanders.
I'll forgive you this time. I just wanted to speak to the application in the essence of particularly the The signage, as Councillor Brown has referred to it, and the advisory design panel referred to this signage being too prominent, and the sign in the northwest corner detracts from the building sign. So I hope when they look at the final plans for this, they tone down the signs. It is a residential neighborhood, and they will not necessarily be a destination location where they're advertising to people, so I think the signage could be much less obtuse. Talking about the storage, if we're going to provide that extra room for storage, I hope that there is good monitoring of that so that it is indeed storing files and not building materials as such. I'm interested to see what the public amenity will be, and I particularly want to hear that they're going to come forward with this covenant of the no storing of equipment and material outside the building, because Mr. Sharini referenced the property at Lincoln's and Mountain Douglas Crossroads. It is a particular eyesore, and we wouldn't want to see that happening in this location. I do think it's a good location for this building, although I thought that was just some corner lot. I didn't know you could get a building on that. So I'll be looking for that at the public hearing, the covenant on the no storage of equipment, some revision on the lighting, and the public amenity. Thank you.
And I just make a comment to the applicant. There are a couple of questions that council did have, and if you would check with staff on it, just to clarify it before a public hearing. Council, all in favor? Against? Carried. Madam Chair, next item, please. Madam Clerk.
Change it now. Let's just get used to that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This next item is 3999 Cedar Hill Road, a rezoning and development permit application. The report of the Director of Planning is recommending that Council approve the rezoning to RT4 attached housing for a proposed 5-unit townhouse development, and also that the final reading and approval of the development permit would be withheld pending registration of covenants, and that are outlined in the report. That's it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Council, any questions of staff? Councillor Dermott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the Director of Planning. In the sustainability statement, it refers to accomplishing Built Green Gold or Interguide 80. I'll bring up the same things I did last week. Is that supposed to be Interguide 82, which is the equivalent of Built Green Gold? As I understand it, Interguide 80 is barely above code.
That would be correct on page 12 of the actual report. I believe it says Built Green Gold or Interguide 82, which is correct there.
I was just looking at the sustainability statement. Thank you.
Would the applicant care to come forward?
My name is Jamie Gill with Seba Construction, and I'm here tonight with Pradeep Misra from Misra Architects and Julie Lemors from LADR. I'm just going to briefly discuss kind of the community consultation that we have done so far. We had a meeting set for in November 16, 2014, and we had an hour and a half set up at Braidfoot Community Hall. We dropped off letters about 90-meter radius around the property. We had 2 neighbors attend the meeting. There was the comments from them were one was concerned during construction where the trades would park, and we said that we hope to discuss with Canadian Tire and use their part of their parking lot if it's possible.
I wonder if I could cut in just for one moment. You have a great presentation, but the screens are just facing council. I wonder if we could tilt them a bit so the audience can see. Councillor Dermott, could you tilt that one a bit, please? Not too much.
Far?
Perfect. Good. Thank you. Sorry to break in.
No problem.
And half a minute.
Oh, sorry. And the other comment was that it's a very nice design and it fits in, and that just to double check the trays on the right hand side. We did meet with the Community Association, and we received their support. And there has been a sign on the site for about almost a year and a half now, and and Sanish has not received any letters or anything yet. So I will pass it on to our architect to discuss the building here.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, the worship, members of the council, staff, and public. My name is Pradeep Misra. I'm the architect for this project. Before I go ahead and start going through the project, I'd like to tell you the concept of this project so that we can see whether we follow the concept or not. The first one was, as you can see right on that picture, the project is in between commercial and residential neighborhood. On the south is Canadian Tire, and on the north is the new townhouse development by James Carvin. The concept we had was there's lots of trees between our property and the Canadian Tire partner.